Sakura High Boarding School sat atop a lonely hill, its dark, weathered walls whispering secrets to the wind. The dense cedar forest surrounding it cast shifting shadows, isolating the school from the world. Even on bright days, a chill lingered, and the silence felt alive, heavy with history and unspoken rules. Students learned quickly: avoid the fourth-floor corridor. Don't look into dark windows at night, and heed the stories passed down in hushed tones. Portraits of stern headmasters watched from the walls as if guarding the school's secrets. Every creak and rattle felt like a message from the past. Sakura High was more than a school, it was a keeper of secrets. At the end of the fourth floor's west wing stood the door to room 403, always locked, always cold. Its faded numbers and icy brass handle drew fearful glances and fueled endless rumors. Some whispered of a vanished student, others of a tragedy sealed away forever. Teachers grew pale at any mention of the room, their silence more chilling than any ghost story. The door never aged, dust never settled, and the air around it was unnaturally still. Dares to touch the handle ended with hands recoiling from its unnatural cold. The door stood as a silent sentinel guarding its secret. No one dared linger near room 403. Legend spoke of a shadowy figure haunting Sakura High's halls at night. Students glimpsed it near room 403, a fleeting shape, tall or small, always undefined. Its presence brought a bone-deep cold and a terror that lingered long after it vanished. Some believed it was the ghost of the tragedy behind the locked door, forever wandering. Whispered voices and sorrowful murmurs followed in its wake. The school's past was alive in its shadows, waiting for the curious and the unwary. And with a new school year, the mystery was ready to claim another. Under a slate-grey sky, Kenji Tanaka arrived at Sakura High, curiosity burning in his eyes. Assigned to a room with Haru, Kenji quickly learned the school's unwritten rules and the legend of room 403. While others avoided the forbidden door, Kenji felt drawn to its mystery. During a tour, he slipped away, climbing to the fourth floor. The corridor was silent and cold, the door at its end radiating a desolate wrongness. Kenji stood before room 403, obsession taking root. He knew he wouldn't be able to leave the mystery alone. The secret was calling to him. Mr. Yoshida, the stern head of the boys' dormitory, enforced the school's silence with icy authority. During his nightly patrol, he paused at Kenji's door, his gaze cold and knowing. "We do not tolerate foolish curiosity," he warned. Eyes fixed on Kenji, the message was clear: stay away from room 403. After he left, Haru whispered, "He always knows." Mr. Yoshida had been at Sakura High longer than anyone, guarding its secrets fiercely. But his warning only fueled Kenji's determination. Whatever was hidden in room 403, Kenji was now certain he had to uncover it. Section 3. First Night, First Whisper. Kenji's first night at Sakura High was restless. The old building seemed to come alive after dark. He lay awake, listening to every creak and sigh, unable to relax. After midnight, a soft, rhythmic scratching echoed from above. It was methodical, like an animal clawing to escape. Then, a whisper, like wind through dead leaves, carried a name through the darkness. The scratching stopped. Silence returned, heavier than before. Kenji pulled the covers up, truly afraid for the first time. Something was awake above him, whispering in the night. Section 4. The Gaze of Mr. Yoshida. Kenji felt exhausted, haunted by the strange sounds from the night before. He scanned the faces of other students, wondering if they too heard the secrets of the school. But no one spoke of it, a silent agreement to pretend everything was normal. Kenji kept glancing at the door, half expecting Mr. Yoshida to appear. Haru whispered, "Just forget about it, Kenji. It's not our business." That afternoon, Kenji saw Mr. Yoshida talking to an old woman in a cleaning uniform. Her eyes met Kenji's, full of ancient sorrow and silent sympathy. He now had a new piece of the puzzle, the mysterious, sorrowful cleaner. At Sakura High, days blurred into routine, early bells, silent study halls. But beneath the order, unease grew. Whispers in the halls became clearer, belongings moved on their own, and students heard their names called by a sad, airy voice. Kenji experienced it himself, his name whispered in an empty corridor, the air suddenly cold. Teachers tried to dismiss it as stress, but fear lingered. Both students and staff realized something unseen haunted the school. The most unsettling of the new phenomena was the appearance of a persistent cold spot on the third-floor corridor, directly beneath the sealed door of room 403. It was not a draft from a window or a quirk of the old building's heating system. This was a patch of air, about the size of a person, that was perpetually, unnaturally frigid. To walk through it was to be instantly enveloped in a bone-deep cold, a damp chill that felt like stepping into a walk-in freezer. It clung to your clothes and skin, leaving you shivering long after you had passed through it. Students began to alter their routes, walking in wide arcs to avoid the spot, their fear a visible thing. Kenji, driven by his obsessive curiosity, found himself drawn to the cold spot. While others avoided it, he would sometimes stand near its edge, feeling the icy air wash over him. He noticed that the cold was not constant. It seemed to pulse, growing stronger and weaker in a slow, rhythmic pattern, like a slow, sleeping breath. Sometimes, if he stood there long enough, he could feel a faint vibration in the floorboards beneath his feet, a low thrum that seemed to emanate from the ceiling above. It was as if something immense and heavy were resting in room 403, its sheer presence pressing down, leaking its cold misery into the world below. One evening, a group of older students dared a first-year boy to stand in the middle of the cold spot for 1 full minute. The boy, eager to prove his bravery, agreed. He stepped into the icy patch, wrapping his arms around himself as the intense cold hit him. For the first 30 seconds, he stood his ground, shivering violently. Then his face went pale with terror. He let out a strangled cry and scrambled away, his eyes wide with horror. He claimed that he had felt something touch his shoulder. It wasn't a hand, he sobbed, but a feeling of immense pressure and a wave of indescribable sadness that had washed over him, threatening to drown him in despair. The incident terrified the student body. The cold spot was no longer just a strange phenomenon, it was an active presence, something that could reach out and touch you. After that night, no one went near it. The section of the third-floor corridor directly under room 403 became a dead zone, a place that even the bravest students would not cross. The fear in the school intensified, becoming a thick, suffocating blanket. The students moved through the halls like ghosts themselves, quiet and watchful, their laughter gone, replaced by nervous whispers and fearful glances towards the upper floor, where the source of their dread lay sleeping. Kenji's obsession with room 403 was now all-consuming. The whispers, the cold spot, and the palpable fear of his peers only fueled his determination to find answers. He knew that approaching the room directly was too risky, especially with Mr. Yoshida's watchful eyes seemingly everywhere. He needed a different approach. He began spending his free time in the school library, a vast, dusty room filled with forgotten books. He hoped to find something, anything, in the school's archives. An old yearbook, a school newspaper, a record that might mention a tragedy or accident on the 4th floor. He spent hours poring over brittle, yellowed pages, the smell of old paper filling his senses. His search was fruitless at first. The official records were clean, with no mention of any incident connected to room 403. It was as if the school's history had been carefully scrubbed, any mention of the tragedy deliberately erased. This only strengthened Kenji's resolve. A secret so well kept had to be a terrible one. One afternoon, while looking through a box of old student photographs from the 1970s, he found a picture of a school cleaning crew. In the back row, he saw a familiar face. It was a much younger version of the old cleaning woman he had seen talking to Mr. Yoshida, her face already etched with a hint of the deep sadness she now carried. This discovery gave him a new idea. The woman was the key. She had been here for decades. She must know the truth. He started trying to find opportunities to speak with her, but she was elusive. She worked in the early mornings or late at night, avoiding contact with students, moving through the school like a phantom. One evening, Kenji stayed late in a classroom on the 3rd floor, pretending to study. He waited until the halls were empty, listening for the soft shuffle of her footsteps and the rattle of her cleaning cart. He heard her approaching and quickly left the room, hoping to accidentally run into her in the corridor. He found her standing near the cold spot, her back to him. She was not cleaning. She was standing perfectly still, her head bowed, staring at the floor. Kenji hesitated, not wanting to startle her. As he watched, she slowly bent down and traced something with her finger in the thin layer of dust on the floorboards. Then she seemed to sense his presence. She straightened up quickly, grabbed her cart, and shuffled away without a single glance in his direction. Kenji walked to the spot where she had been standing. In the dust, a single shaky character was written, a girl's name. Yuki! The message was clear, a clue left for him to find. Armed with the name Yuki, Kenji felt a renewed sense of purpose. He had to find the old janitor. She was nowhere to be found. That night, Kenji was unable to sleep. He decided he had to go back to the 4th floor. He slipped out of his room, his heart hammering. He moved through the sleeping school like a thief. He climbed the stairs to the 4th floor. A hand suddenly grabbed his arm. It was the old janitor. She put a trembling finger to her lips. "You must not seek her." They locked her in. They left her. Forget the name, forget the room. If you open that door, you will be joining her. She released his arm and melted back into the shadows. He was left alone in the hall, her chilling words echoing in the silence. The old janitor's warning should have terrified Kenji, but it only fueled his resolve. Yuki's story was not just a ghost story, it was a tragedy, and Kenji felt compelled to uncover the truth. He set his sights on the school's archives, a forgotten room in the basement. Armed with a thin piece of metal, he crept down at night, heart pounding. The lock gave way with a soft click. Inside, darkness pressed in as he searched for Yuki's records. A cold gust snuffed out his light. In the suffocating blackness, a whisper brushed his ear. "Help me!" Kenji fumbled in the pitch-black basement, his hands shaking as he tried to get his flashlight working again. The whispered plea echoed in the silence, chilling him to the core. The light flickered back to life, casting long dancing shadows across the archive room. He found the file, Yuki Sato. The photo showed a girl with a gentle, sad smile. The air grew colder, and his flashlight flickered. A camera shutter clicked in the darkness. Kenji looked up and saw a ghostly figure, camera aimed right at him. Kenji scrambled backwards, dropping the file and his flashlight. The room was plunged into darkness. The flashlight rolled away, its beam spinning wildly before coming to rest on a far wall. Kenji's breath came in ragged gasps, haunted by the ghostly photographer and Yuki Sato's sad face. He fled to his room, locking the door behind him. Haru slept, oblivious. The disciplinary report was a clue, another piece of the puzzle. The janitor's warnings echoed in his mind. That night, Kenji hid in an alcove, watching the forbidden corridor. Just before dawn, he heard it, a faint scratching from room 403. The soft, desperate scratching of fingernails against old wood echoed through the empty hallway, sending chills through Kenji. A pale, ethereal light seeped from under the door of room 403, pulsing with a sorrowful humming. Kenji felt pity, not fear, for the spirit trapped inside. He needed answers. Why was Yuki in that room, and what had happened to her? In the archives, Kenji found her diary, the truth in her own words. Yuki wrote of a hidden darkroom, undeveloped film, and her fear of Mr. Yoshida. Her final entry: "Mr. Yoshida knows I have the key. He is coming for me. I will hide in the darkroom." Kenji's blood ran cold. The final words in Yuki's diary echoed in the silent dorm. He will never find me here. But he had. Room 403 was never a dormitory. It was an old darkroom, Yuki's secret haven. She was a passionate photographer, not a ghost, but a girl who hid in the one place she felt safe, only to become lost to time. Her story was not of malice, but of longing. A spirit bound to her art and to the secrets the school tried to bury. The truth was, well, a heavy burden. Kenji now understood the janitor's warning. They locked her in. They left her. It wasn't a ghost they had locked in, it was a girl. He reread the final entry in Yuki's diary, trying to imagine her final moments. He pictured her hearing Mr. Yoshida's heavy footsteps approaching down the fourth-floor corridor. He saw her panic, her decision to hide in the darkroom, believing it was, the perfect hiding place. She would have slipped inside, pulling the heavy door closed behind her, plunging herself into the familiar, comforting blackness. She would have held her breath, listening, waiting for the footsteps to pass by, but what had happened next? The diary could not tell him this part. He could only imagine the terror that must have slowly dawned on her. The footsteps would have stopped right outside her door. She would have heard the sound of a key turning in the lock, not her own small picked lock, but a heavy official one, a deadbolt, a sound of finality. Then the footsteps would have walked away, leaving her alone in the pitch-black, sealed room. The door was old and heavy, the room likely soundproofed for privacy during developing sessions. Her calls for help would have been swallowed by the darkness. Her prison was not just the room, but the timing. The diary was dated just before a long school holiday. Mr. Yoshida would have known this. He would have known that the school was about to empty, that the halls would be silent for weeks. He had not just locked a door, he had set an inescapable patient trap. Yuki's initial feeling of safety would have slowly curdled into confusion, then fear, and finally sheer unimaginable terror as the hours turned into days. No one was coming, no one knew she was there. She was abandoned, left to face her fate in the absolute dark, surrounded by the ghosts of photographs she had tried to save. This was the source of the haunting. It was not just a death. It was the nature of that death. It was the prolonged agony, the hope turning to despair, the sheer loneliness of her end. That raw, powerful emotion had been imprinted onto the very walls of room 403, an emotional stain that could not be washed away. Her spirit was not just lingering, it was trapped in a loop, endlessly reliving her final, desperate days. The scratching was not just a memory, it was her ghost still trying to claw its way out, still hoping someone would hear her after 40 long years of silence. The sorrow the janitor spoke of was not just sadness, it was the residue of a soul that had died in utter desolation. Kenji knew he could not keep this knowledge to himself. The secret was just too dark, the injustice far too great. He had to confront Mr. Yoshida. The thought absolutely terrified him. The teacher was such an imposing, intimidating figure, a man who commanded both fear and respect in equal measure. But well, Kenji now saw him through different eyes. He was not just a strict disciplinarian, he was a man guarding a horrific secret, a man who had been complicit in the death of a student. His obsession with rules and his fierce protection of Room 403's secret were not about maintaining order. They were, in fact, about self-preservation. They were the actions of a guilty man. The next day, Kenji waited for him. He did not try to catch him in the hallway or ambush him in his office. No, he waited until the end of classes and went to the 4th floor. He stood directly in front of the door to Room 403, holding Yuki's diary. He did not have to wait long. It was as if Mr. Yoshida had a sixth sense for that corridor. He appeared at the far end of the hall, his walk slow and deliberate. He saw Kenji, and for a moment he froze. His usual stern expression faltered, replaced by something Kenji had never seen on his face before, a flicker of pure, unadulterated fear. As Mr. Yoshida walked towards him, the years seemed to fall away from his face, revealing the younger man who had signed Yuki's disciplinary report. He looked old and tired, his shoulders stooped under the weight of a secret he had carried for 4 decades. He did not yell or demand that Kenji leave. He simply stopped a few feet away, his gaze fixed not on Kenji, but on the small, cloth-bound diary in his hands. The silence in the hallway was thick and heavy, charged with 40 years of unspoken history. All the whispers, all the cold spots, all the fear led to this single moment of confrontation. "Where did you get that?" Mr. Yoshida's voice was a hoarse whisper, stripped of its usual authority. It was the voice of a man defeated. Kenji held the diary out. He did not need to answer. The teacher's eyes were locked on the book, his face a mask of anguish. Kenji saw it then. The man was not a monster. He was haunted, just as the school was. He was a prisoner of his own past, forced to walk these halls year after year, always aware of the tragedy sealed behind the door just a few feet away from him. He was a guardian of a tomb, and the ghost that haunted Sakura High also haunted his every waking moment. Mr. Yoshida did not deny it. He simply sagged, as if the strength had just gone out of his legs. The corridor, bathed in gloomy afternoon light, became his confessional. He told Kenji the story, his voice heavy with guilt. He had locked Yuki in the darkroom as a cruel lesson, but then forgot her in the rush of the end of term. By the time he remembered, the school was empty. He found her too late. As he finished, a soft weeping echoed from room 403. Yuki had been listening. The truth was out, but it brought no peace, only the weight of a 40-year-old tragedy. Mr. Yoshida's confession hung in the air, heavy and cold. The weeping from room 403 grew louder, echoing decades of grief. With trembling hands, he offered Kenji the tarnished brass key, the one that sealed Yuki's fate. Kenji took it, heart-pounding, and stepped toward the door. The key turned with a groan. Silence fell. Kenji pushed the door open. Darkness and cold swept out, carrying the weight of 40 years. A faint whisper, "Thank you." The presence was gone. Sakura High was finally at peace. After the truth came out, Mr. Yoshida resigned and confessed everything. The ghost stories faded, replaced by mourning for Yuki Sato. Room 403 was sealed, its number removed, becoming a quiet monument. The cold spot vanished, and the whispers ceased. Kenji Tanaka left, forever changed by what he'd learned. Sakura High still stands, its halls filled with new students, but the story of room 403 is now a cautionary tale. On quiet nights, some say you can still hear the faint click of a camera shutter, a gentle echo of Yuki's memory.